It's Sunday, around about lunchtime. We are largely just relaxing after a busy and, in some ways, drama filled week. So I have just been relaxing, chilling out, and doing a little bit of prep for an upcoming campaign that I'll be running. Specifically, I am trying to map out the themes and key conflicts in this adventure, and I thought it might be fun to show some of my process for that. One of my favorite tools, specifically for mapping out conflicts in adventures, is four corner opposition, which I don't see get spoken about a huge amount. So I thought, hey, I would show how I use it for role playing games. So technically, four corner opposition is a storytelling framework that was sort of coined by John Truby in their novel, who's like a Hollywood writer, and it's a way of setting up like the board of your story, such as it is, so that there's just conflict inevitably baked in, and the story kind of writes itself. It's used mostly in relation to movies, TV shows, like linear narratives, but I've found that with just a little bit of tweaks, it works as a fantastic way to workshop and come up with really interesting conflicts for your adventures. So I'll show you the example I'm working on just now and sort of like walk through my reasoning. Alright, so this is the wee template that I normally use when I am trying to come up with the four corner opposition that I want to bake into my adventure. As you can see, I've got it labeled as the four corner opposition sandbox version. So the way this works is right smack bang in the middle is where your theme, your conflict, or your question lives. This is like the big thing that you want to sort of revolve your campaign around. So it could be a dragon, it could be a powerful amulet, it could be the fate of a kingdom, it could be a more philosophical question like the campaign I am building is about a group trying to restart a ruined magical academy, a sort of like Strixhaven, break bills from the magicians sort of thing. It's a group of well-meaning individuals trying to bring a school of magical learning back into existence. And this is the big question I want to ask, which is what should be done with magic? How should magic be used in the world? So, have you got your theme in mind, or your powerful artifact, or your MacGuffin, or whatever, the thing that all the conflict revolves around goes right in the center? So from there, we have our two axes, okay? We have motivation and objective. So, motivation is a simple one. Think of a powerful emotion related to the central theme, okay? And we just map 4 different quadrants based on those. So for example, one of the simplest ones to go for is love and hate. Very easy to pick up and run with, so I tend to start with that, and it often works out. So up here we have 2 quadrants that both love magic, 2 quadrants that hate magic. Okay, real nice and simple. And the core theme here that we're working with, what should be done with magic, it's kind of a question about control, freedom of power. It is power, it is the power of magic, who should be able to learn it, who should be able to use it. So the other axes that we have is magic should be free for all, which goes up here, or magic should be controlled, which goes here. Okay, so that gives us our 4 quadrants, and now we just have to sort of start plugging in characters or factions into these different quadrants, and they will inherently be in conflict with each other. For example, I need to come up with a character who loves magic but believes magic should be controlled. So I've popped in here just archetypal concepts right now of a dean, someone who they love magic, they want to teach it to the new generation, but they believe it has to be studied and controlled in the right way. And then over here in this quadrant, we need to have a character who loves magic, but believes magic should be free for all. Everyone should have magic, everyone should have the right to do magic. It shouldn't be controlled or policed. So I'm thinking of a character who's like a thief, like a spell thief, someone who's going around the place stealing scrolls and arcane objects, and just a magical Robin Hood character, if you will. And then down here, I need a character who hates magic and believes magic should be free for all. Now, this is when you can start to get into some interesting ones, these kind of combinations. Someone who hates it but believes everyone should have it. So I'm working on this concept for an artificer who was never born with magic, and they have seen all the horrors that magic can do. And it's this sort of the belief that, oh, the only person who can stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. So they've dedicated their life to creating arcane and magical objects that they can give to everyone so that they can protect themselves or stand up against the evil wizards of the world. And then finally, someone who hates magic and believes magic should be controlled. Another tough one to come up with, but I'm currently plugging in here the concept of a devil. Someone who doesn't like mortals having magic because it levels the playing field. They would prefer if mortals just didn't have magic. So they hate magic, they hate mortal magic, and they believe it should be controlled. They believe that, only certain mortals should be allowed to use magic, and only certain mortals should be allowed to make deals and arcane deals, etc., etc. So very quickly, I've got these sort of 4 big, larger-than-life characters, and just based on their motivations and their objectives, some are inherently fully diametrically opposed. So I can immediately see the Dean and the Artificer completely opposite. The Dean loves magic and thinks magic should be controlled. The Artificer hates magic, believes magic should be for everyone. So these two are never going to get on. But, for example, characters who are next to each other can sometimes ally temporarily, or their goals might align. So our Dean who loves magic and our Thief who loves magic, they both love magic. They both have different objectives. The Dean thinks magic should be controlled, the Thief thinks it should be for everyone. But in a situation where magic is on the line and might get fully erased or whatever, these two might work together temporarily. Same goes for the Dean or the Devil, potentially, or the Artificer and the Thief. It creates this maelstrom of characters or factions that are inherently opposed to each other or can ally with each other temporarily, and it just immediately bakes all this conflict into your adventure. Traditionally, when you're using four-corner opposition for narrative structure, it would be set up in a way that your protagonist is dropped in one of these quadrants, and then their goal would be throughout the 3 acts of the novel or whatever, they have to encounter an opposing or tangential philosophical argument and then defeat it until theirs is the only one remaining, or they adopt another one, and so on. But with role-playing games, I think the most fun thing is just to set up these 4 factions or 4 characters, and then you just drop your players in the middle. So for this game, my players will be new members of the Magical Academy, surrounded by all of this maelstrom of conflict, and they have to sort of find out through exploration and roleplay which of these characters, which of these factions they align with more, and they can start helping and aiding them, And as the game goes on and characters are removed, if the Thief dies, for example, then the Artificer may get more desperate because they've lost an ally, so the Artificer might ally with the Devil. Suddenly it becomes this more, lopsided conflict. Yeah, it's a real simple way that where in 10 minutes you can come up with 4 very dynamic characters that are all related directly to the theme or the MacGuffin or the big monster or whatever. I like it. I use it a lot. So there you go. Another wee method of designing adventures. Works especially nicely for sandbox adventures, but it can also just be a good seed to plant a bunch of, characters, and that's always the best way to get ideas out, is just to ask yourself questions, and this little 4-corner chart immediately makes you start asking questions. What is my theme? Who would support this? Who would be against it? How and why? And from there, you can just start fleshing out all of the characters in terms of, okay, my dean loves magic and believes magic should be controlled. How are they going to go about doing that? What is their intention? What are the goals that they're working towards? Same goes for the devil, who hates magic and believes it should be controlled. How are they going to try and reach their goals? So yeah, give it a try. Next time you're putting together an adventure or a campaign, let me know how you get on. And I'm going to go for now, and I shall see you all tomorrow.